Sunlight dances across a kaleidoscope of colors, revealing an underwater metropolis teeming with life. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, are one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on our planet. But these underwater wonderlands are facing a growing threat. Today, we explore the profound impacts of human activities on coral reefs worldwide, and why their fate matters deeply to all of us. From the smallest fish to the largest whale, countless marine creatures rely on coral reefs for survival. And for millions of people around the world, these reefs provide food, income, and protection from coastal erosion. Our journey begins with an invisible enemy: climate change. As greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, our oceans are absorbing much of this excess warmth. This rise in sea temperatures, even by a few degrees, can have devastating consequences for corals. Corals live in a delicate symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae called zooxanthellae, which provide them with food and their vibrant colors. When waters become too warm, this partnership breaks down, causing the corals to expel the algae and turn ghostly white, a phenomenon known as coral bleaching. Bleached corals are not dead, but they are starving and more susceptible to disease. If the water cools, they can recover, but prolonged heat stress can be fatal. And the impact of a warming world doesn't end there. The absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is making our oceans more acidic. This acidification makes it harder for corals, as well as other marine organisms, to build their calcium carbonate skeletons, weakening their structures and making them more vulnerable to damage. Imagine a city where the very foundations of its buildings are slowly dissolving. That's the reality for coral reefs facing ocean acidification. The demand for seafood is putting immense pressure on our oceans, and coral reefs are bearing the brunt of unsustainable fishing practices. Overfishing disrupts the delicate balance of coral ecosystems, often with cascading effects. For example, removing too many herbivorous fish, which graze on algae, can lead to an overgrowth of algae that smothers coral reefs. Destructive fishing methods such as dynamite or cyanide fishing are particularly harmful, causing widespread damage to coral habitats and killing countless marine creatures. Imagine a forest where trees are felled indiscriminately, leaving behind a barren landscape. This is the scene left behind by blast fishing, a practice where explosives are detonated underwater, killing fish indiscriminately and shattering coral colonies. The shockwaves from these blasts can travel for significant distances, causing further damage to reefs already under stress. The use of cyanide, another destructive method, is equally devastating. Fishermen squirt cyanide into coral crevices to stun fish, making them easier to catch for the aquarium trade or live seafood markets. However, the cyanide poisons corals and other marine life, leaving behind a trail of destruction. These unsustainable practices not only decimate fish populations but also destroy the very foundation of the reef ecosystem. From our farms to our cities, human activities are releasing a cocktail of pollutants into our waterways, ultimately ending up in our oceans. Nutrient runoff from agriculture, sewage, and industrial waste fuels the growth of algae, which can block sunlight and smother corals. Plastic waste, a ubiquitous pollutant in our oceans, can entangle marine life, damage coral reefs, and introduce harmful chemicals into the food chain. Imagine a once pristine coral reef now draped in a suffocating blanket of algae, a consequence of excessive nutrients flowing into the ocean. This process, known as eutrophication, disrupts the delicate balance of the reef ecosystem, depriving corals of the sunlight they need to survive. As algae die and decompose, they consume oxygen in the water, creating dead zones where marine life struggles to exist. Microplastics, tiny particles less than 5 millimeters in size, pose an insidious threat. These fragments, originating from larger plastic debris, are ingested by marine organisms, including corals. While the long-term effects of microplastics on corals are still being studied, their presence can block digestive tracts, reduce feeding efficiency, and potentially introduce harmful chemicals into the food chain, threatening the health of the entire reef ecosystem. As coastal populations grow, so too does the demand for land infrastructure and resources. Coastal development, while essential for human progress, often comes at the expense of fragile marine ecosystems like coral reefs. Dredging for construction materials, building piers and marinas, and land reclamation projects can destroy coral habitats, release harmful sediments, and alter water flow patterns, suffocating corals and disrupting their delicate life cycles. Imagine a once thriving coral reef now buried under a layer of sediment, a consequence of dredging activities for a nearby port expansion. The sediment, laden with pollutants, smothers corals, blocking their access to sunlight and hindering their ability to feed. The once crystal clear waters, essential for coral growth, become cloudy and inhospitable. The construction of coastal infrastructure, such as seawalls and breakwaters, can also disrupt the natural flow of water, altering sedimentation patterns and wave action. These changes can prevent coral larvae from settling and growing, further hindering the reef's ability to recover from other stresses. Tourism, when managed responsibly, can be a powerful force for conservation, raising awareness and providing economic incentives to protect natural wonders. However, unregulated tourism can have detrimental effects on coral reefs. Boat anchors can smash delicate coral colonies. Divers and snorkelers can cause damage by accidentally touching or kicking corals, and sunscreen chemicals can pollute the water and harm marine life. Imagine a popular snorkeling spot where hundreds of tourists flock each day to witness the beauty of the reef. While many are respectful, some unknowingly contribute to the reef's demise. A carelessly dropped anchor can instantly shatter decades of coral growth. Divers, eager to get a closer look, might accidentally brush against corals, breaking branches or disturbing marine life. Even seemingly harmless activities like applying sunscreen can have unforeseen consequences. Certain chemicals commonly found in sunscreens, while protecting human skin, can leach into the water and harm corals. Oxybenzone and octinoxate, two such chemicals, have been shown to damage coral DNA, disrupt reproduction, and cause coral bleaching, even at very low concentrations. The challenges facing coral reefs may seem insurmountable, but there is hope. Around the world, scientists, conservationists, governments, and local communities are working tirelessly to protect and restore these vital ecosystems. From establishing marine protected areas to implementing sustainable fishing practices, efforts are underway to mitigate human impacts and give corals a fighting chance. One promising approach is coral restoration, where scientists and volunteers are literally gardening underwater, cultivating coral nurseries and transplanting healthy corals onto degraded reefs. These efforts aim to rebuild damaged reefs, enhance coral populations, and restore the ecological balance of these vital ecosystems. Innovative techniques, such as using 3D printed coral structures to provide habitat for fish and other marine life, are also being explored. But protecting coral reefs requires more than just local action. Addressing the global threat of climate change is paramount. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions through transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, and promoting sustainable transportation are crucial steps in mitigating the impacts of climate change on coral reefs and the planet as a whole. As we've journeyed through the underwater world of coral reefs, we've witnessed both their breathtaking beauty and their alarming fragility. The challenges facing these vital ecosystems are significant, but our collective action can turn the tide. By supporting conservation efforts, making sustainable choices in our daily lives, and demanding action on climate change, we can help ensure that future generations inherit a healthy ocean teeming with life. Each of us has a role to play in protecting coral reefs, reducing our carbon footprint, supporting sustainable seafood choices, making informed decisions about tourism, and advocating for policies that protect our oceans are all meaningful actions we can take. Let us remember that the fate of coral reefs is inextricably linked to our own. The future of coral reefs, and indeed the health of our planet, depends on the choices we make today. Let us choose to be guardians of our oceans, protecting these underwater treasures for generations to come. The time to act is now, while there is still time to make a difference.